Here we can see that we have 4 users, with id user, username, and date joined. So let's get our base URL and go back to the project. Here in the API const, we can simply copy and paste the localhost URL, and it would configure fine to always be this host. But to make it more intuitive, let's say your base URL is 3000, 3001, 3005, or something like that. Let's configure it in a better way, on the .env file. Put it here in the root of the project, do .env. So here we will start creating it so that we can call it in other files. Let's put here, the standard is always uppercase, React_app_backend. So here will be the URL of the backend. And we pass here our localhost :5000. We already know that we always want the same user and we won't have a logged in user. Then we can go to Swagger, and we pick one of users from the database. Get user1 here, and we'll simulate as if he were logged in. Create a new variable with the same React_app prefix. Our new variable will be React_app_logged_user_ID, then paste our user ID here. So here we already have our configuration. If I go here again on the Axios JS files, I'll create a const base URL to get our localhost from the .env. I'll go back and copy the variable name from the .env and then I'll set on Axios. JS const base URL equals process.env. The copied environment variable. Let's put the const on the base URL key of our const API. This time out here we can increase to 5, just in case the request takes some time. I believe it's not necessary. So here we already have our Axios configured to be able to search within our Python REST. So let's go back to our index.js in the beginning, and let's try to put the name here on the main page. We have the hook here that is the use of JS, which would be our logged in user. So here, getUserLoggedIn, let's Control+click, it will open where it's being defined. And from here, instead of getting the user, doing the login, which is set here, we will make our API call. It will be practically the same as we will use below. Also in getUserById. So let's take a look inside Python REST Swagger, how we could do that. Here we saw that we could put the user ID that will always bring a user from here that we already had the id of user1. That was here it brings the user. However, we have a getById, so here we can make the request for just one user. Let's click try it out here again. We already have the user ID. If we execute it, it calls down here user1's id. And our base URL that we put, it's here, and so we see what we need for the API call, which is /user/the id we need. From this, I can already see what I need. So let's make our call here to the user-logged-in function. Let's give it space and let's create our variable here. Will be const res, we will receive the API instance. Res equals await. We use await because it receives an API call and it is asynchronous. And we pass here the Axios instance that we created. It will show an error, but we select from this dropdown to add the import statement and fix that error. Let's write .get. It's a call, and it already has what we need, defined in the instance, so we put it here. A template string, user, / and here we get the user inside the env, process.env, from logged user. Here we can already make our API call. Let's add a console.log of res here to check what it brings to us. It will probably give an error in the application because here we're not returning any values anymore. But no problem. I'm minimizing to put it here on the side. As I said, it's already starting with error. But let's see what we have here on our inspect section. This brings an object. Inside this object we have data. Inside data, which is an array, we can see that at index 0, there's already a user, and here it brings id_user and username. We can do a deconstruction here. Changing the const to data, and down here, we set to get the data at index 0, and I think here we can already have our information. I'll give it a save. Let's see what it's going to bring now. Here we go. We already have all the information we needed, so we have what we wanted to pass at the beginning. So now we can simply, instead of giving the console log, we can switch to a return here. And you can delete what is commented here, we won't need it anywhere else. Let's go back to our index. Let's make a call here right at the end, we'll change its place later. And since that's a hook, it will be useAuth. It already imported automatically up here. Let's see, it imported all right. And let's set the const name as user, which we are returning from within hook. Let's pass it into our feed title, user.username, which is what we had here, and the others will be the same when we pass the ID, the date, and so on. When we're going to do the get, let's see. I'll minimize here so we can see it on the side. If it's already returning, here it is, it returned our user1, which is the same thing we did here in the Python REST Swagger. Now, we need to do this for the other information as well too. Maybe do a get inside our modal, which will make these calls here. How many posts you have, how many followers we have, and so on. Let's see now what is the next request we will make.